Wow, memories, right? Hi, everyone. My name's Archon. Welcome back to Barbaric. Today's video is going to be belts, specifically simple belts. This was initially two projects that I was going to put into one video, but I didn't want that video to get really long. So I split it up into two. Part one will be this simple leather belt. Just like before, we are going to go step by step from cutting this out to adding the hardware and getting it ready to ship off to the customer or put on for personal use. So if you've ever wanted to make a belt, you ever wanted to know how, or you just don't have anything to do for the next 15-20 minutes, stay tuned. After rolling out the leather, we are going to set our strap cutter to the desired depth. For this project, we're going to go with 1.5 inches as that's my preferred belt size. We're going to double check, ensure that we are at the desired width, 1.5 inches before we begin. And strap cutting for me is one of the most satisfying things. All right, to cut the strap, we are going to set it inside the strap cutter, grab the top, and pull it all the way through. And just like that, with relatively no effort at all, we have a perfect belt blank. Now that we have our belt blank, it's way too long.
It is way too long.
So we need to cut it down to right
So we need
size.
to cut it down to size.
And to do that, we're going to use the shorty. It is just a piece of manila folder that I cut
once you make one, you really don't
and added some holes on there. It's going to act
So what we're going to do is we're
blank.
going to make a belt here, and let's make
Once
this
you
belt
make
for
one
me.
of
So I
these,
would be
you
a double
don't
X on my
really
shorty
need
here,
to
which is my
make
mark,
another one.
which is 43 inches.
For this
Now
belt, we're going to do a
double X for my
43
sizing,
inch
not
belt.
necessarily
Now, that's
everybody
my
else's.
size.
The one thing that you will find about
One thing that you're
belts
going to find out
compared
about
to
belts
pant
is
sizes is
compared
they
to
do not
pant
match.
sizes,
So
they
if you
don't
are
match.
a 34
For
inch
example, if
in
you
the
are a
waist on your
34
pants,
inch
that
waist,
does not mean you
you
want
do
a
not
34
want
inch
a
belt. That belt will
34
be too
inch
small.
belt. That
Pants
belt will
use
be way
vanity
too short.
sizing. So a
Pants use
34 inch
vanity
waist, what you want to
sizing,
actually do is
so you
add
want to
2 to
take
4
your
inches to
pant
that.
size and
So a 34
add
inch
2 to
waist
4
should be
inches. That'll be
36
your
to
belt
38
size.
inches.
We're going to take our shorty, lay it out, and then scribe our end punch mark so that when we use the end punch, we know where to go. Then we are just going to take that scribe and mark where our holes are.
All the way over here.
To get the length, we're going to set the tape measure at the middle of the bend on the one side, stretch it out.
You already have it by the point. So tape measure out, make sure since we moved it. All right, we're still there. So 43 inches is where we want to line up.
43 inches, that will be the mark for the hole that we will use on this belt. And then we're going to mark all 6 of our holes.
And just mark.
So with the shorty, we marked off where our end is. And I have this end punch that I got from Amazon. It works perfectly. We're just going to line it up with our mark. And if you don't have an end punch, don't worry. All you need to do is take your shorty, scribe out your line, and then get you a very sharp and stropped knife.
And you will just remember sharp strop knife every time. Multiple passes if needed.
If you go slow, you can get a pretty clean and pretty accurate cut.
And there. So, is it perfect? No. Will it work?
But if you're like me and you go too fast, you can always come back in with your knife and just do some final little cleanup work.
Round out the tip a little bit. You know.
Is it perfect?
Do what you want.
No. Will it work? Absolutely.
Personally, I prefer the look of the punch
I like
versus,
the look of the end
mind
punch.
you, that was just me doing it real quick. You could get it much nicer if you took your time. From Amazon.
I'll flip the belt over and now we're going to get the other side. This also is an end punch that I got from Amazon, although this one was much cheaper and it is basically garbage. I only use it because I don't make belts all that often, and this is also on the inside, so not really seen. Now we're going to punch the holes for our Chicago screws. These are hole punches that I got off Amazon. Probably one of the best purchases I ever had. I've had these for years. Never sharpened them. I use them almost daily, and they still punch just like they did brand new. I love them. Flip it around to our front end, and we're gonna punch out the 6 holes here. I was initially gonna just do this off camera and get the oblong, but I thought I might as well just show you how I do it and then show you kind of a quick and easy way to do it. So just like with doing the end punch on both the front and the back, actually, there's a quick, dirty, easy way to do this. If you don't have an oblong, what you want to do is take your hole punch and punch 2 holes that are the distance that you want the oblong to be. Then you're going to come in with, again, a very sharp knife and very slowly and very carefully connect the 2 holes. One thing to make sure of is don't try to connect them all the way at the end of the bottom one. What you want to do is cut about halfway, flip it over, cut the other half, meet in the middle. That way your blade doesn't inadvertently cut leather that you don't want cut. But to get a cleaner cut, what I'm going to use is a oblong die and the press I have here. The best way I've actually heard to do this is with a oblong punch. But even on Amazon, those are a bit pricey. And don't even get me started if you want to go through Weaver or Tandy to get one. Now, before anybody gets all up in a roar, I understand those are quality and professional tools. If you're doing this all the time, absolutely invest in the tool. But if you're making a belt every now and then, it doesn't seem worth it. So what I use are these die punches I got off Amazon. Again, I think they were under 20 bucks for a set of 52. And then I have also Amazon purchased this press. So this oblong punch that I'm going to use is 1.25 inches. I found that best. To set up my press, I have these 2 little dowels that were in my office I don't use for anything, and I just set them underneath to rise up my piece. Then we have our sacrificial leather so we don't damage our punch or tools. You never want any tool or any punch hitting wood or anything hard. Always make sure it's like a cutting board or leather. Use a, do I have safety scriber, I think is what that's called, or, and I have a French scriber somewhere, but it's not right here. You can use one of these, come in and just shave off as you go. I will be honest with you, I hate these things. I've never been able to get it to work right. They always wind up fucking up my project. So this, in my opinion, was a waste of money. I never learned how to use it and I'm not going to. So I just went ahead and invested in this. I think it was like 30 bucks off Amazon. Skyver for the tongue works perfectly. If I'm skiving wallets, I just use a hand skiving knife. So what we're going to do, I already have this set to the size that I want for a belt. You would just adjust these 2 screws, push it up, pull it down to get your depth right. So we push down. I like to make sure my tongue is underneath this bar. And I like to go just past where our last hole is. And what we're going to want to do is kind of twist it to get it going. And then we just pull straight through. So you wind up with a nice little perfect piece shaved off. Perfect. And it bends. That's what we needed. While we're here, now is a good time to go ahead and take care of these edges. So what we're going to do is bevel the edges on both sides of the project. When I first started, I had this fascination with trying to bevel the longest, most, like a continuous piece. And I would always get irritated if I missed or whatnot and didn't get this long strip. Now, who cares? Just go. As long as it's consistent, just go with it. I do want to get the front part of the little tongue piece on this, just because it's going to fold over and that will be the top. Yep, now flip it over. We're going to get the back side. And I like to get both sides. I don't think you need to. I like to get both sides on belts. That way it gives you a nice rounded edge when you burnish it, as opposed to kind of like a cornered edge and then a hard stop. Just another little side thing. We don't need to go all the way to the edge on the backside because the tongue is going to flip over. We really only need to go to where we skived before. We need a keeper for this. I typically do make mine at 3/4 of an inch wide. To get the length, fold the belt on itself, wrap the strip around. That's going to give you the length for your keeper. We need to stitch this keeper closed into a loop. So to do that, we're going to need to punch some holes. I like to use this 4-prong diamond chisel I got with a kit at Tandy. It's the perfect length to get all 4 tines in. We're going to burnish this edge now before we stitch it together. Again, Tokonol, my preferred product for this. They do make tools that help spread this along the edge. I just use my finger. I don't typically buy a tool for everything if I can get away with it. So make sure we get good coverage across the edge. Then we take our canvas and we want to rub aggressively. When I say that, I mean quickly and not hard. Just it's friction that actually burnishes and not pressure. When it comes to the length of thread you need, what I was always told was you measure the distance you're stitching and you multiply that 3 to 4 times. That'll give you the length of thread. I will say, in my personal experience, I say go with 4 every time. I've had it 3 come up 1 to 4 holes short way too many times. Oh, you would typically think that stitching 4 holes together is going to be quick and easy, but when it's a keeper and it's so small, this actually takes a little bit of time. And my opinion with the keeper is it does not matter what stitch you choose to use, whether it be a running stitch, a butt stitch, saddle stitch, if you could figure out how to make it work. Doesn't matter as long as the keeper is secure. The stitching part of the keeper is going to be sandwiched in between the 2 layers of the belt, so you'll never see the thread. Sometimes with sometimes when you're using a diamond chisel, the hole doesn't quite open up as much as you want to, especially depending on the size of your needle. If you've got a particularly large needle, it might not go through. One thing I like to do, especially when you're working on something like this and you have to bring the needle through the back, is I like to take the needle and I'll push it through the front first, kind of wiggle it around to bore that hole out a little bit, and then I'll flip it around and come through the back. That makes it easier than trying to fidget through and find where the hole is, and it lessens the likelihood that you're going to split the leather. You really want to avoid piercing the leather at all costs. Once you get your stitching done, 3 basic things: pull the thread tight, snip the thread, get a lighter, and burn the end of it. All we have left is to assemble the belt, take our buckle, add it on, get our first Chicago screw set in. And we want to make sure that we're putting the one closest to the buckle so we have room for our. Then we're going to slide the keeper all the way down and feed it underneath the tongue in between 2 holes so that we can put our second screw in and secure it. Another thing that you can do that I've heard a lot of people do, never tried it myself, is to take just a little drop of wood glue and you put that in the screw before you screw it on. That will lock the screw in and prevent it from working its way out. I've personally never had a Chicago screw work their way out, so it's never been a problem for me. But just like that, you have a handmade belt, and start to finish, it probably took all of 30-45 minutes. You could shave off some time there if you bought a belt blank and didn't cut it yourself like we did. This belt is ready for usage, present, whatever you want to do with it. If properly cared for, this belt should easily last a decade, if not longer. Thanks for making it to the end. I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, let me know in the comments what you think, if you have any ideas for future videos. Overall, fun, quick little project, right? And it came out pretty good. I gotta say, as soon as I made this, like, I cut it and I looked at it, I'm like, shit, that looks a lot like the belt, like down to the color and the grain that my dad had growing up. That one that was like, oh, you don't ever want to hear that one, clear and loops. Funny how things change as you get older, right? Thanks again, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. And as always, stay barbaric.